In this tutorial, part 2, how to create a site plan in Revit, we're going to carry on where we left off from part 1. Okay, so we've set up a basic site extents and we've preliminarily put it on a sheet so that we can see what we need to work with. Yes, we will have to do some changes on our sheet eventually, but for now, I've got the area and focus that I need to focus on, so I don't add additional information that's not required. Okay, in this tutorial we're going to cover adding the road network. So if we go back to our site working, so we've got our aerial photograph that we used, and we've got the AutoCAD file linked in that we're using as a reference because it gives us the road center lines. But here we're going to start establishing the parking area. Okay, and we're going to start establishing the access to our site and how the back of our site will work. I've used a mass in this instance, so I've got two options. By now you should all have a mass of your design project which you can use, so that's exactly what I've done. I've created a basic mass. The reason why I've created a mass as well is because it will give me the total, the gross volume and floor areas. Okay, because you're going to need these values later on when we do our calculations. If you've got another model, for example, I've got two examples just to show you in this. I've got a Revit link as well. So if I switch off the massing, so we've got two options. This is just a link that I've brought in as well to give some context of my project. Okay, so it doesn't matter at what stage you've managed to produce a model of your building. We've got information that we can work with. We can also draft a lot of the information on the site plan as well if required, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. But in a nutshell, just remember our site plan is looking as a bird's eye view, looking down at everything. So you can see preliminary, it's actually looking quite neat. In this instance, I'm going to switch off the building Revit model and I'll just bring back the mass for the time being. Okay, because it'll give us an extent of where the parking is going to happen, etc. So we're going to start building the road network, the adjacent parking, and in addition, I know this is an annotation category, but I'm going to establish some grid lines on our site so that we can work a lot more accurately going forward. So the first thing I will tackle will be introducing some grid lines. So this is what I'm going to do in my working view. So a lot of this will happen in my working view. Okay, so first off, we're going to change this from true north to project north, and I'm going to start switching off the information that I don't need. So the roster image, I don't need that at the moment. So if you go to VG, visibility graphics, you can go to roster. You can uncheck this box. That's the first option, or you simply can click on the roster image. Just remember to pin the image in case, because it could move quite easily by accident. If you pin it, it can't move. And you can also set Revit not to select pinned objects as well. So if you use that, you'll find that you can't even select that object. So it's another way to manage items in your drawing view. Okay, so pin it, and then you can simply use the glasses icon, which is your temporary hide and isolation. So I'm going to hide this element. You'll notice that you'll get a blue frame around the current working window that indicates that something is currently being hidden. I've also got this information from the AutoCAD file, which I'm also going to hide. So you can do the same step. You can simply just say hide element. Okay. Now that we've got our basic drawing data, so we've got our cadastral information, we've got some elevation markers that came with the file originally, and we've got a basic section. Just remember in the basic section, go and set up your levels. Let me just switch off the Revit link model for the time being, just so that we can see. Go and set up some basic levels, and you can see that my massing works with my levels. Okay, they go hand in hand. Okay, on site working, let's start looking at establishing a grid. Okay, so let's go to architecture grid. Okay, now we're going to start, and I'm going to start from the center here and work up. That's my first grid. I don't want to use the pick line tools because there could be inaccuracies. So I'm going to pick a line in that direction. Okay, that will be my first grid. And I'm going to pick one. I can come back and change these later on. I'm going to pick one there, pick one from my origin. and pick one at the end of my site. And I'm always working horizontal and vertical. Okay. Now that I've done that, you can simply select one of the grids, go back to this hide isolation. You're going to go and use the isolate category tool. Now what I can do is I can start making these all work together. This one I must just pull back. Okay, this one. So as we start pulling this out, you'll see they start associating and working together. So this is quite a critical part of setting up your site. You'll need these grid lines, especially for this project, to kind of manage the extents of the buildings and the parking area at the back. And if you are going to use some sort of structure, you'll need some sort of structural grid to work off. Okay. All right. So we know now, let's say reset. Okay. Sorry, undo that. Reset temporary hide. Reset. Just remember, if you apply, it will permanently hide those objects in the view. Just use one dimension for this grid line. Select the dimension and the grid line again. Go back to the glasses and say isolate category. Okay. We're going to use these dimensions to kind of help us set out. Okay. So this first grid line was 20 meters. Okay. And then this last grid line was going to be 10,000. Okay, because that was the extent of our site. So we had a 20,000 and then a 10-meter setback where your parking will occur. Don't worry which way these look. You can change the different heads of them for now, but for now we're just first establishing this. And then we need to do is copy these grids 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. We can simply select one and we can use the rate tool, grab it and go. Here's asking for the second. I'm going to type in 7,500 and I'm going to say 3 times. Sorry, 4 times. My apologies. Select this. Okay, it should have kept that. Let's go reset. Click the grid line. It should give us an option now to say 4. That's 5. 5. Okay. So now you can see we've established our basic grid. Go back to the site plan view. You can start to see now that scale 1 to 200, how this is starting to look and work. Just go back in here again. Change this scale as well, 1 to 200. This scale doesn't really matter because you're constantly changing the scale in this view. Now that you've made an array, you need to select one of the arrayed objects. It becomes a group. You're going to right click on the group and you're going to go and say select all instances in view and you simply ungroup. Okay. Now I'm going to go to VG, switch off my raster more permanently because I don't need it right at the moment. Press apply. Okay, and I'm going to switch off the AutoCAD file as well. VG, imported categories, and I can just simply switch off the Brooklyn drawing for the time being. Okay, because I just want to address some of the grid. So with the grid, I'm just going to go IC, isolate category. So with the grid system, if they change direction, so you either use numbers and letters or numbers and letters separately. So you either have a letter and number combo if you have a lot of grid systems, but in this case, I'm going to stick with 1, 2, there's 2 already. So let's fix that first. So let's start here. This will be A, caps lock A. Okay, scroll up. B and C. Okay, A, B, and C. These will be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't really matter which way they work as long as your numbers. So if somebody phones you on site and says there's an issue at C1, you can go right into that area on your plan as well. Okay, so we need these grids to define how our site is split as well. I'm not too worried how these will look. I can fine tune these once they go on my sheet. But for now, I've established my grid. So that's my first option done. Now I need to start establishing my road network. So I've set up my site constraints, and you can see there's some slight little discrepancies here with my massing, but that's okay. I mean, we can address quite easily. So I can simply just pull that back to there. For now, grab this line, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about that. as long as I've got the extents, and this is going to be what I'm going to see in my site plan. So this is just giving me some preliminary line work that I can see on my site, okay, and use to start generating my site plan. Okay, the next thing we need to do now is bring back the AutoCAD file and start working up the roads. Okay, we can use the aerial photograph as well, but if you've got a basic understanding how the roads work, that's what we're going to tackle now. Okay, so let's just go back to VG, import the categories, and you're going to bring back this information. Okay, now we're going to start generating our roads. Okay, so we're going to go to the Manage tab first, Additional Settings, Line Styles, and here we're going to establish, we should have a road line already. Okay, so here we've got road markings, road dashed. So what is missing? We need a road line. So new, call this 2. It could be in 3 as well. No, it's not. Say new. Just remember we use a prefix. So road line. Okay. So road line, and we could make another one curve for now. I'm going to make this 3. I'll explain why. You want the slightly, you want the line weight to be slightly larger than the 2. So 3 road line, and just press OK. Here's my 3 road line. Just make 3. That's 3. Then the last one we're going to introduce is new, and we're going to call this 2 curb line, or you can just call it curb. Okay. All right, again 2. All right, so we've established some line work that we're going to start using. 3 road line and 2 curb. We'll use 2 curb a bit later on, but for now road line is going to be the one. Okay, now from recollection, we know that the site plan uses a default view in the project to start from, and you can say associated level is ground floor. Okay, with the type of line work that we're going to generate now for our roads, it's all going to be model lines. So in architecture, you want this to be visible in all views and in 3D maybe. So I'm going to use model lines in this instance. So I'm going to click on the model line tab. Now simply go to 3 and I can start using my road lines. Okay, I'm going to use the pick line tool because I've got the center line to work with, and I'm going to give it an offset. So a typical road width is 7 meters. So if I hit 3,500, okay, and I hover and I click again, so I'm using the pick line tool. Okay, so here we can see we're starting to establish our road network. Let's just double check. DI, we should have 7 meters. Okay, so that's our first set of line work completed. Just isolate the line work. So grab this bit of line work, isolate it. You can just simply use the isolate category command. Now we just have to do some fine tuning. So you can click this bit of line work, right click and say create similar. Use this arc tool, and generally the intersections, the radius is about 4 to 5 meters. So I'm simply just going to quickly go around and add these radiuses in very quickly. Okay, I'll do one more. Sorry, my apologies. Create similar. 4,500. Just remember, these can be adjusted on the fly, okay, if you wanted to. So when we come back, I would have completed all of this. Okay, so I've completed the road network as I needed. You can trim the information off as you require, but for now, this is perfect what I needed. The next step we need to do now is we need to start reinstating and establishing our curb line. So our curb line will be the next bit of line work, and that will be the same. It will also be a model line, and it will be in this view. So you're simply going to go and select the architecture tab, model lines. This time we're just going to go to 2 curb. Okay, you use a pick line tool again. This time it's 150. Okay, and when you hover over a bit of line work, if you use the command pick line tool and you tab, so if you select one and you tab again, it will select all, and you can see very quickly it managed to create an offset for me, and that is curb line. Okay, so that's worked pretty well. If I switch on my line weights, we can clearly see a hierarchy or definition. So the road line is more important than the curb line. The curb line is purely just to indicate where the curb occurs and how it works. So I'm quickly going to go around and complete the offset of all the other line work. Now that I've managed to achieve and establish my road work, the next objects I need to start introducing are the parking areas themselves. So I need to go and locate where the parking is located. For that, I'm going to need, so I can actually start switching off this DWG file now. So I can go to VG, imported categories, switch this off, press apply. Okay, so here we've got a basic road network. Just remember, these are model lines, so they are visible in 3D. You want this because it means if you go to other views, you can start seeing the road network behind if you want. Okay, so that's why we would want to do this. Okay, there are situations where we'll use a different and we'll use detailed line work instead of model line work. Okay, but we've got our road network established. The last thing I need to do now is start looking where the parking occurs. You can go and add a lot more detail to the road network shortly, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. But for now, VG raster, bring this back in. Now you'll notice that there's parking along here, there's parking along here, and I'm going to use this access to get into the parking, and there's another access over here. Okay, and then there's also parking along here with some trees. Okay, so that's the next thing we need to go and establish. So let's have a look at this area over here. I know for a fact, if I select this road line, I'm going to use the same road line, create similar. I'm going to use the pick line tool. I'm going to say 5 meters. So parking is 5 meters deep. If I hover on this line work on the inside, just remember on the inside, you'll see it'll drop in a bit of line work. Next thing I need to do, create similar. I need to introduce where this first parking bay starts it. And this is purely, doesn't have to be 100% accurate. I'm just trying to find, so let's pick a point on here nearest and go make sure snap perpendicular and snap perpendicular to that line. Now we can start using these drafting tools, trim. Okay, because we've got some parking here. So we'll start establishing the parking, but I'm just trying to work out where this occurs. So I'm going to quickly go through the whole drawing and add all the parking very quickly. So let me just quickly show you this. VG. I'm going to go to VG. Okay, I'm just going to temporarily hide the raster image in this instance. Grab the raster image classes and go hide element for the time being. Okay, so here we've got a line where our parking occurs. So we might have to trim, but I'll leave the road line there because parking sometimes there's a different surface finish, but we'll need to offset our, so I'll need to create similar and use my offset tool again, 150. Offset there, offset there. Now we can simply trim, because I think the parking will go quite far. So here I can just simply use the trim command and trim that off. So here we've got a line of our parking bays, and here we're going to have a series of parking here. So I'm going to go and add the rest of the parking, and then we'll get back and have a look. Okay, so you can see that I've gone and added all the line work that I need for the rest of the site. So here's my parking area. I've drawn all the line work that I need, and this is all in 3D. So all of this line work is all in 3D at the moment. Yes, it does clash here, but there are ways that we can start addressing that. Okay, so now that we've got all this line work in play, what we can start doing now is to start adding this detail to our topography to make our topography work a lot better. Okay, so these two bits of line work will start working together the whole time. So this is just an additional option that we have at our disposal currently. So I'm just going to select the topography and change this to the earth layer, which is already built in earth. Press OK. And in our earth layer, I'm just going to address, I just want this to look a lot better. So for the physical and thermal characteristics, we don't need that, so remove those assets. For appearance, I'm just going to use the replace command, and I'm going to simply go to the appearance library, going to go to site work, and I'm simply just going to pick the default, the generic grass material, and then in graphics, I'm just going to say use, and you'll notice now that it'll look quite neat. Okay, The next thing I need to do is I need to split the surfaces up, so where the parking is going to occur and all of those. So for now, I'm just going to switch off. You can switch off all the model items, that's totally up to you. But for example, I can just click isolate. So select all of the line work maybe. So you could maybe select all this information, but ultimately all I need to do is I need the line work to help me cut out the road network on this topography. We use this in combination, especially later on if you want to export this to 3D view. Okay, but for now, I'm just going to start splitting the surface up, this surface, into a series of, so I'm going to go to massing and sites. I'm going to use the subregion command. Now I'm simply going to use a pick line tool and I want the road line. So you can just double click on the road line. It should select all of it together. Okay, in this instance, you can see I don't want this information over here. So maybe I'm just going to use the pick line tool there, there, and there. There, there, and there. I'll explain what I'm doing now. There, there, and there. That's fine. There, there, and there. Okay, that's fine. That's all I need for the time being. So I'm just going to use the isolate category command, select that, go here, isolate category. Okay, that's good. Let's just pull this. Let's just draw a bit of line work over here, create similar. Okay, and let's just extend that. So I'm going to use the extend tool for now. Everything else should be good. The last thing I need to do is I just need to close these off. So it doesn't matter. You can do this quite roughly. You can just go to top view if you wanted to. I'm doing this all in 3D view, but you can also do this in your side plan view. Okay, we've just got to close these off. Use a trim command. Okay, trim. Okay. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm simply going to say reset temporary height and isolation and finish. Okay, now that I've got that in play, what it's done is it's using my model lines to then split up the surface. Then I can just go and find hardcore or hard standing. There we go, site hardcore, that's all I need. And just say, in this instance, it uses a default. Here again, you can just go and find appearance, and you can go and find site work, and you can go and find the material, asphalt, gray, maybe light. Let's use a light one. That's good. There we go, asphalt. Here we're just going to say use render color. None of this information, just say none for now. Triangles, you just say remove, yes. Okay, press OK. That's all fine. Should not have been. No pattern. Go. Right, apply. Press OK. Okay. Now you see in 3D view and our road information starting to match. Okay, so that's starting to work well. Yes, just remember your topography is going to start hiding a lot of the information, but I'm pretty happy with the results we've got currently. If I go to my site plan view, what I am going to start doing is my topography, I'm going to change to transparency. We'll hide this later on. I'm going to change this to 100 and press apply just so we can see right through the site. So what's neat is now we've started establishing the parking area that we have inside here. Okay, you can see there's some line work going around here. We've got some basic grids. I've got some basic contours in play. Road network. In addition, now what we need to start adding and capturing are the trees. So we need to start capturing all the existing trees, which trees are going to be demolished, etc., etc. For this, we're going to need some families. I've provided a whole I've provided you with a whole lot of families that you can use for this project. So you can simply download all of these families. So the best thing to do is select all these families and simply drag and drop them in the view. Okay, so by dragging and dropping them in the view, it will load all of those families. Okay, you can do it individually as well. So if we go back to site working, now this is where it's going to get a bit tricky, because technically we're using annotation objects in this view, and we'll need to transport them to the view on the sheet. Okay, So here I'm just going to say reset hide. Okay, now I've got my trees in the background. For this, I'm going to switch off my mass as well. So you can simply hide the mass as well. Select that and you can just simply hide element. Okay, it's got a whole lot going on here. So let's hide this whole thing. So let me just switch off masses as well. Massing and site, show, switch off mass. Okay, so here we've got a big tree that we need to start capturing, etc, etc. Okay, and in this view, what I also tend to do, VG, switch off all the elevation markers as well. We don't need those for the time being. Press apply. They're just going to get in the way. Okay, now if we go to annotate and we go to component, I've given you, so there's trees existing, trees demolished, and trees proposed. So here we're going to grab our existing tree family, drop it in. This works slightly different to AutoCAD. You use the grips to try and get the tree to the right size. Okay, and you can see, so that's my first tree in play. Okay, and you can see that's worked very well. Okay, so that's good. There's my first tree. So you're going to simply go around using the same family. Just remember, if you use components, while the command's active, you can actually stretch this is what I like about Revit as well. So you can simply just carry on putting these trees in place. Okay, just remember, if a tree is going to be demolished, like over here somewhere, you're going to go and find component, trees, and here you're going to go and find your tree demolished. Works exactly the same way. Just remember, here we're going to demolish these trees. Okay, so there's my demolished tree. Just remember, these are not 3D objects, so they won't be visible in this view yet. Okay, and we're going to have some proposed trees. Okay, so here we're just going to go back to component, and here we're going to go to proposed. Proposed trees work slightly different. Here we have to work with small, medium, and large. So here I'm just going to use 2 medium trees along here because I don't want these to be really big trees. I might put some new trees along here, medium, because I'm going to do some additional work here. Okay, we haven't started with the materiality yet, so we'll get to that in a minute. But here I can use maybe 2 of these. Okay, let's grab that. Shift Control. If you hold Control down, it will copy it. If I go to VG, if I just quickly select the image and switch this off, let's have a look at the results. Hide elements. Okay, now you can see how the trees are starting to work. Okay, they read well, everything looks good. Okay, and it's working well. I just noticed there is a slight error with this tree symbol. I might want to change all of those to black. Just to show you what's going on, I will address this myself. I'm going to go and edit the family. These should all be the same, so match, that must be on the same layer. Okay, that's all that's happened. I'm going to save this file. I'll save. Yes, I'm going to replace that family and load it back into the project. Step 1, site, step 1, yeah, press OK. Override existing version. Okay, now they're all gray and they look good. Okay, so that I will fix so that the families that you get will work correctly. So I'm going to quickly go and add all the trees that I need. Okay, now that I've added all the trees that I might require, the next step will be to go and make these a group, because if you want to transfer this information back to the site drawing every time, it's best that you work with groups, because a group, if you edit the group, then you can change elsewhere. So what all you do is select any tree. You're going to select this and go isolate category again. Okay, just all the tree symbols should be available now. Select all of them and you simply make this a group, and you just call this group trees. Oops. Okay, now if we go to our groups, you'll notice in the detail items I can remove that. So let's just say delete that one. So here you can go and rename it here. You can actually rename it here, call this trees if you wanted to. But this is where your groups will start living, and this will be one group. And what's neat about a group is if I grab this group and I go edit group, if whatever you change here, it'll change all the groups with the same name. So if I grab this group, copy, and I go back to site, and I go paste, align to current view, you'll notice that it will paste those trees in. And what's neat is, because this is a group, whatever I change in here, if I delete this tree, finish the group, and I go back to this view, you would have noticed that tree would have also disappeared. Okay, but that I just want to undo. Say finish, and let's just go back to this view, just go undo, 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 finish. Okay, now if I go back to this view, you'll notice that this tree is back. Okay, so all our annotation and detail objects, we want to make groups going forward. Okay, so here if we just switch this off again, hide element, just remember I've used the wrong command here, so you'll have to go back here and say unhide element. So just be careful with that hide option. You want to use the glasses hide element. Okay, and this blue line. Okay, so we've got our trees in place now. We've got our basic line work established for our road networks. So I'm going to go, I think that's enough information for my site context. I've got some good road line works. Maybe in addition, I'll add some center lines down the road, etc. But this is the beginning stages of my projects. Now, we're going to have to start using more families for the parking, for example. So let's see how we do that. So let's just go to, and your parking is a 3D object, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so you need to go to architecture, component, architecture component. Here, you'll need to, if it's not loaded, you're going to go and say load family, desktop, wherever you've saved these families I've given you, parking bay, and you can just say open. Now we can start using our parking. By default, sometimes this comes in a bit strangely, but if you go to manage object styles and you go to site, there's a dedicated parking. In this parking layout, you can see it's on a poor layer. So change that to 3 and change its layer to black. Okay, so that's good. Press apply, press OK. So there's my parking bay. Okay, with this parking bay, what's neat about this parking bay, you simply just go to architecture, component, find your parking bay, and whatever object you hover over, it will try and align it to that object. Okay, so if there was a diagonal or a skew line somewhere, let me just see if there are any skew lines. No, there's not. Okay, let's see here. Here's one here. You'll notice that if you use the space bar, it will try and align to that object. So if you hover over an object and you press spacebar, it will automatically align to that object. So I'm going to put one bay in here, move this to the corner. Just remember you can use the align tool, align it like that and align it like that. Then with your parking, you can just simply use the array command now. So you're going to use the array command. Here you can say second or last, that's totally up to you. Here I'm just going to use the second command, so I'm going to say array from there to there, and it's asking me how many you want, so you can say 10, maybe 20. Okay, that's worked well. So I'm going to quickly go and add the rest of the parking quickly. Okay, so I've got added a whole lot of site information now, parking information to my project, and you can see I've included some on the basement level for my basement parking. I will use that later. It won't be visible, but you can set these, you can override these to dash lines, and you can make them visible as well. But for now, I'll just simply draft over them with a dash line when we start hiding that information. Okay, so for now, we've got our parking. Just remember the parking is also 3D objects, and it'll sit on ground floor. I know it does elevate above for now. There are ways to address this later on, but just remember, this is not Civil 3D. This is more of an architectural program. So there are ways to make this look better. But for now, this is a good way to work because your road line will keep managing how the site will look, etc. Okay. The last thing I might want to do is introduce how the site goes into this area maybe as well. So maybe selecting this bit of line work. So the last thing I need to do is hide this. So Fiji, let's just hide the link very quickly. So the last thing I need to do is maybe pick up how this parking works. So I need some line work to show how that works, how the parking works. So let me just quickly add that in. Okay. So we've got the beginnings here. So I'm quickly just going to go to my site plan working. And here I'm going to simply draft. It is here, unfortunately, it is detail line work. So that was my mistake. So select, it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the detail line work in this view, in our site plan view, because we still have to draw our walls and etc. in here for our boundary wall. So we'll get to that in a bit later. Okay, but for now, I'm just going to introduce my parking area quickly. Okay, but just on my site information. Let's just go to my site. Go back to 3D view. You're going to select the tool here called massing and site. You're going to go sub-region. Go back to site working, because this works through all of the, select this layer, press tab. Then all you've got to do is just finish off this line work. Press escape, select that pink line, go isolate category now. Now you can just simply make sure these have to be closed loops in order for them to work. So this has a, so here you need to trim that with that, trim that with that. Okay, so this must be one set of closed, so there's a double line here maybe. Okay, let me just use this line again from, it's 2 endpoints. Why is that? Maybe it was 2 bits of line work here. That's strange. So let's just draw a line from the endpoint. So snap end and snap end. There we go. Finish command. Go to 3D view and let's change that to site hardcore here. There we go. All right. So now we've established the basics of our site. Okay. All right. Now we have a situation where generally the way the Revit site information and topography works, it always sits above and it's not neat. It doesn't look great. So what I'm going to do for this view is I'm going to export my site working view. I'm going to duplicate this site plan. I'm going to duplicate with detailing. Okay. And I'm going to rename this, sorry, my mistake, delete that. We're just going to simply say duplicate, site, duplicate view, duplicate. Okay, in this view, we're going to switch off this crop region. Okay, so we're going to switch that off. And in here, I'm going to introduce, so I just want the contours. That's all I want. So I'm going to go to VG. So VG, there must be no annotation objects and all off, go to topper surface, all that I want to see in this view. So I don't want to see that, don't want to see that, don't want to see that. I just want to see primary and secondary contours. Press OK. Okay. Now, sadly, it does come with this outline. Okay, so in AutoCAD, you've actually got to go and switch off these sub-regions. Let me just see if it'll hide and view elements. No, see, it deletes the, so it's part of the site information. Okay, now, unfortunately, there's no other way to do this. So what I typically do is I export this as a DWG file now, and I reload it in, and then explode it and get rid of the information I don't need. Okay, so I steal the contour information, maybe add some labels. Okay, I've switched off that as well. So for now, I'm just going to introduce some labels. They're not visible, so let's go to VG, import a category, so annotation. Let's do the same here, show all. So all off, all off. You need to go to contour tags. It's topography. Yeah, contour tags. There we go. Contour labels. Press apply. Press OK. Okay. With those on, I'm just going to take some down on that side and use the copy tool and go on that side. And then I'm also going to change the scale 1 to 200. That's fine. Okay, let me just make sure that this is working correctly. That must use your survey point. Just remember that survey point. I'm going to change these all to 2 as well. Press apply. Press OK. Okay, and we just need to fine tune some of those values. So units, meters, 2 decimal places. Press OK. Press apply. Press OK. Okay. Now that we set up these contour values, you'll notice that they do work well. But the problem that we're going to have here, okay, and I'm going to use, that's fine. The other line work we can switch off. All I'm interested in this project file is the major and minor contours. So what I do is I'm going to export this as a DWG file, just like this. Okay, let's just go to VG maybe, object styles, and go to contours. I just need to change some of these settings, topography. So your primary contours, they're going to be, usually they're about 3, let's make it 4, and your secondaries will be 2, 4, 2. Okay, color, we're going to make this, I usually make this like a darkish gray, just like that. Press OK, and that gray I'll leave just like that. Press apply, press OK, press OK. Okay, so what we do have now is we've got our contour labels that we can use. Okay, and we've got a primary and secondary contour line which stands out quite nicely. All I'm going to do now is go to File, Export, CAD, DWG, and I'm going to export this as a DWG file. Just make sure that you deactivate this link here as well. Okay, I'm going to go next, and I'm going to simply save this on my desktop. Put this in a location in the same file. I'm going to call this Topo EX existing, because we're going to have to change a whole lot of stuff and it needs to look differently. So Topo EX, press OK. Okay, press OK, and it'll export this file for you as a DWG file. Alright, just to double check if this works, we're going to start a drafting view, because we'll need to do some management of this and you don't want to pollute other views. So here we're going to go to View, Drafting View. So drafting views are purely, it's a purely 2D drafting view. Okay, in drafting view, I'm going to simply go and use the Insert Link CAD. Here you're going to go to Desktop and you're just going to simply say, that's fine, open. Okay, so now we'll see how this file comes in. And what is neat, we can switch off the stuff that we don't need in this AutoCAD file. Just remember, if we go to VG, here if you go to Imported Categories, here we can say, I don't want the labels on, and I don't want the topo information. I just want the major contours. That's all I need from this AutoCAD file. And you can see the colors have come in perfectly. So now I'm going to use this AutoCAD file as a 2D object over my site plan. So we're going to have existing and proposed topography. Okay, and I'm going to keep this in my drawing. So let's just go back to my site working. Reset. So in here, I'm going to simply do that same command. Let me just see site copy. So let's just change this to True North. And I'm going to go and say link CAD again. Link CAD. It's in my project already. That's fine. Link CAD. Here we're going to say origin to internal origin auto. This should automatically align everything for you. Yes. Okay. All right. There's been a slight issue here. It's just because I should have started this view in. So let's just undo that, unpin that, delete. Okay. So I think the first thing we need to do is we need to, because it's brought in as a 2D object for now. So let's just get rid of this. Go to manage links. Let's make sure that it's not in my CAD files. Yeah. Okay. So let's just go back to go to this view and just change this back to Project North. No, it should be True North. True North. Okay. So we're going to go to Architecture, Link CAD. So insert Link CAD by shared coordinates, because we've exported it, and press open. There we go. Perfect. So by shared coordinates, you can see it's coming exactly at the right place. Okay. So now we've got an AutoCAD file. So we go to VG, imported categories. So here, remember, switch that off, switch it off. And we don't need the labels. I'm just using the labels just in case. Okay. So here we've got an existing topography. And what is neat, if we go to this view as well, if we go to 3D view, it's going to bring that in as a 3D object as well. If you don't want that, you can just simply go back to your site working. Let me just explain this. Let me just remove this again. Link CAD. This time we're going to say current view only by shared coordinates. That's important, current view only. And then we're going to say open. See, it's worked perfectly. So we're going to go to VG, Revit links, VG, importer categories, switch that off, that, press apply, press OK. And then we can simply Control C, and we can just simply paste a line to current view here. Okay, now you can see we've got our top contours coming nicely. You can leave those labels if you want to. You can actually leave those labels, but you can see they don't read correct, so you'll need to address that at a later stage. But we've got our existing contours in place. If you want to rework this contours in here, I'll show you exactly how to do that now. But we're in the final stages of preparing this drawing now for the final few steps where we start adding materiality, etc. Okay, so we've established our road networks, we've established our sidewalks, where our trees are located. Any additional information that we need, you're going to draft that in now. Now we just need to finalize our contours. Okay, now in our contours, let's go to 3D view. So in our 3D view, we're going to bring back, I'm going to use the Revit link structure for this building, press OK. So here I need to start changing. So there's quite a fall from the road itself to the building, but I know the site well, so I know that's going to be pretty flat, so I'll need to address that very quickly. Okay, so let's just go to my section very quickly. Section. So I need to start working out what the levels of the front of the road will need to be. So somewhere over here, you see here's our road. I need to start getting a basic level in here. Let's go to VG. Let's go to Revit links, and I'm going to switch this back on in here just for now. So it's pretty close. I just need to make the front of the building match. Here's the road. Here's the line of the road. And and you can see our grids are also helping us now in this view. Okay. So let's just go to VG, Revit links by host. I'm just going to say custom, annotation, custom, none, apply. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we just need to do some topography changes, and I need to introduce a basement and maybe a bit of a ramp. Okay, this is quite a long-winded process as well, but you can use a building pad to help you in certain areas, but I'm just going to use my levels in this instance. Now, to do this, we need to go and work out the exact levels that we need to achieve in front of the building. And I'm going to use round numbers for this. So I'm going to grab this project, this level, and I'm going to change it to work with my project base point just for the time being. Because what this will do, it'll give me a level above ground or below ground. So if I just see, and I could use spot elevations for this. If I go to view, annotate, spot elevation, and here you can see this spot elevation is minus 200. So the level in the front of this building, I want to make it minus 250, for example. So I'm going to edit some of the site information now. Use a spot elevation again. So that's minus 1000. But if I set minus 2000 around my basement, that will work well. Okay. Now, let's go back to site working. Okay, VG. Switch off my roster. And we're going to just hide this for the time being. Okay, and I'm going to hide this DWG file as well. Hide that, hide element, go to VG, and I'm going to bring back my topo surface. Press apply, press OK. Okay, now I'm going to switch on wireframe. Now, what I tend to do here is I use detail line works because I want to pull this level right to the front of maybe where this building starts. So this level needs to change. I'm going to also change these values now because I need to see these in a different way. So these, I'm going to say, here I've got survey point. I'm going to change this to base point. Press OK. Now you can see that's minus 500 at the front of our building. If we go back to our section, that needs to be minus 250 in front of our building because you can see there's quite a fall here and it keeps falling. So I need to get in the front of my building, it needs to be minus 250 in the front of where this building starts. So I'm going to start adding that information on and seeing what happens. Okay. Now this is why I'd exported my topography as a DWG file, because the changes we are about to make now are going to be quite severe. Okay, so I'm going to select my topography, I'm going to go edit surface, and what I'm going to start doing now is introducing some points, place point minus 250 around the front of my building. So pick a point there, pick a point there in front of my building, and put another point here maybe. Okay, that's good. If I go to my section now, it should start looking a lot different. You can see now I've addressed this issue in the front of my building, and I've provided a neat gap in front of my building. Okay, all right, so that's my first protocol. Now finish the command. Now we need to work out how these major contours are going to work. So you can see that our major contours, they keep to a strict line, but I have to go minus 200. Sorry, let's go back to start working. You can see how the contours come in here, then change and divert and continue. So what I tend to do is I use some annotation line work, detail line work, and I just use a basic line work here, and it's a green line. So here, I'm going to try and work out, so this is minus 1 meter, and I know that my basement occurs somewhere at the back here. So let's just use a quick reference plane to work that out. So let's just go back to my section. I'm going to grab a reference plane, architecture reference plane, so that I know where my basement starts. And that basement needs to be minus 2. That basement needs to be minus 2 meters. Okay. We can make it a bit lower. So I could actually say pick new host. So select this level, and I can simply tell it to pick a new host. Okay. So here, spot elevation, it should ask me to pick a new host. We can just say create similar. Yeah, minus 2,200. So if I made it minus 200 and then I used a pad, it'll work well. Okay, so from here, it's going to start changing to the front there. So what's the level in front of this? So let's just go back to, let's grab a detail line in here as well. Now I'm going to go to annotate, spot minus 800. If I call this, yeah, minus 800 in front of there, I could actually just use the same level here, but let's say minus 500 in front there. The rest will be full. Yeah, right, minus 500. That works well. So minus 500 in front of where this begins. So let's just go back to my site working. Cancel. Now you can see it's going to be minus 500 on that line. So what I need to do now, just for safety's sakes, I need to maintain where these major contours and minor contours happen. So I'm going to go to detail line, and I'm simply going to trace roughly where these come in, because as I start editing the topography, this is going to change quite a lot. You don't have to do this for a lot of them, just for these couple ones, because I need to work out how these contours will work. So here's my point, minus 2 meters. But it looks like that minus 2 meters we're going to preserve. Okay, and then we've got this minus 1.5. So let's just quickly follow that one. I'm doing this roughly because I've got the AutoCAD file that will give me a good exact. But here, you just need to understand how these work. So here, from this line, I've got a basement. So from there onwards, it's minus 2. Now that's the first line. I usually offset this by a certain amount. I'm going to use a detail line again. So this time I'm going to use a closed set of detail lines, explaining why I'm doing this. So snap intersection, SI, snap intersection, boom, follow this line. There we go. I'm going to close this line work to there. Now I'm going to offset that line work. So pick that green line. So pick line tool. Okay, I just want to select your isolate category. And I'm going to simply say, select all of this. Okay, that should have been closed as well. Line, create similar. Okay, create similar. Select this bit of line work, and I'm going to use this offset command. Offset command, switch off copy, and I'm going to just make this 300 because it'll be a 300 concrete wall maybe. Click offset again, tab. So I've just offset everything in 300. So let's just go back, reset temporary height. and just go to VG. I'm going to switch off the raster. I'm not going to need the raster anymore, so I'm going to switch that off. You can even delete it when you're done. Okay. Okay, now I've got my raster back in play. Now I'm going to select my topography, edit surface. Okay, so what we need to do is, I know that this is -2 meters over here. Oh yeah, one last thing I need to do. Here I just need to tell it to look a lot deeper. So if we go to view range, I just need to tell this to go unlimited, apply, because you should be seeing all the points from my topography. You should be seeing all of them. There we go. Okay, that's fine. Press OK. Now we know that this is our line of where our basement starts, and on that point there's going to be a difference here. There's going to be a step. So from there to there, there's going to be a slight step. Okay, so I'll leave these as they are, but I'm going to introduce some more points, and we might have to start introducing how these things will work. Okay, so here there's going to be no points for the -meter, and I'll show you where that's going to occur. I'll leave that just like that. And the -2 meters, it will now start following. So this point I'm going to move, and I'm going to move this point. So try and keep it on the line as close as possible to there. Okay, there we go. Delete that point for now. Okay, delete. What you can do is you can grab this point and you can use the copy command. And I can start copying this point now to the boundary. Copy, multiple, from there to there, and from there to there. Okay, so now we've created a corner in which we're going to work. Okay, so this -2 meters. We are going to use the -2 meters here as well. Okay, this is going to start looking a bit strange, but it will start fixing itself. So our basement starts there. Yeah, that's -2 meters, sorry, 2000. So let's just select this point. Cancel. Select this point. -2000. It's going to dramatically change. You can see it's having a massive impact. So I'm going to grab this, copy. So from there, I'm going to copy it to there. Okay. And I'm going to start copying it around on the inside of this line. So one there, one there, one there as well. Okay, it doesn't matter. These can work together. That I can remove for now. That's fine. That's working well together. Grab this -2 here as well. Copy that from there to here. And another one over here. Okay, I can put this right at the end here as well. There we go. Okay. Now we've got a massive hole here, but in front of our building here, it needs to be -500. So I'm going to say pick point, -500. And this -500 is going to happen along the front here. So let's first find the middle. So somewhere here, -500. Let's grab this one, the -2 meters, copy that in front here. Now you're seeing it's starting to build a line. If this starts happening like this, you simply grab both of these points. Okay, you've got both points selected. Sometimes you've got to hover to select the point underneath. Sometimes it won't select that point. Okay, so you might have to go to 3D view for this. So you might have to go to your 3D view, wireframe, top view, and you might have to copy those points. We've got a line to work against here, and you can see it's getting pretty accurate. Top view, and I'm going to simply copy these, one here, one here, and you'll see it's starting to fix. It's starting to fix my topography. Okay, here we've got a slight. You can see it's trying to fall in here, but I think that will work pretty well. Now the last thing I need to do is this line will need to come down to here somewhere. So I'm going to grab this point over here, copy this point from there to here. I'm going to copy another one of these points, copy. I'm going to put it over here somewhere. Okay, so this point, let's move this back a bit. It'll start fixing this in a second. And we might have to introduce, because I think those are -meters. Let's just go back to my site. That's 0.5. So let me just see what other contour labels, they're all missing now, typical. Okay, that one's missing. Okay, let me just say finish. And this, oh, here's this contour label. So this one is a minus, why is this contour label not working? Should be visible there at -2 meters. Okay, here we've got a couple, -2 meters. It's just because we've generated a big hole here. Okay, so let's just go back to our topography. Edit topography. So here we've got a point that is 1,000. So here we just need to copy this point, copy once more, and put it over here. So now we've established a bit of a break. Okay, so here we might have to, you see our meter comes here. Here's our in-betweener, our -500. Where's our -500? Which is this line over here. So I might want to introduce that -500 here as well. So let's grab this, copy this point, -500, copy it, put it over here somewhere, then copy this point. Just switch off your line weights. If you can't see these points, copy, and we're going to try and make this line up with this point over here. Okay, so here we're starting to build up a bit of a topography, but I think for the sake of what I'm doing now, this is starting to work pretty well. So here I'm going to pull this back to here. Here I might grab another 500, copy this one, pull this back here a bit. It'll address that issue that we're having here. So if we go to 3D view and we finish our site information and we switch this back to wireframe, shaded, select just the topography, isolate element. You'll see now what we've created in essence is a basic step in the site. Okay, so you can see how our contours are starting to work, and you can see it's working well with the road, and there's easy access into the site already. So that's actually worked out pretty well. Here, however, there is a slight step here somewhere, so we might have to address that. I might have to pull this meter back onto us, and let's maybe do that a bit just to increase, because you typically won't just have a big step like that. So let's just go to edit. So these points, I'm simply going to grab these points here and just nudge them back. So that's at a gradual fall. Okay, that's working better. That's a bit of a plateau here. There's a plateau here. So, but that will work better. Finish command. Let's see it. That should be a gentle slope now coming down. Yeah. So that you can drive in there and park, etc. Okay, so now we've got a much gradual slope into our site, and we've pretty much built what we need. Okay, we go to our section. You'll notice that our section will start looking a lot better as well. Okay, there we go. You can see our section is actually working really well, and it's exactly what we want to achieve. Yes, there'll still be a slight fall in your parking back to the side over here, so we can address that as well. But I'm pretty happy with this result. Okay, I'm happy with what we got here now. So now we can just simply wrap up this exercise. All we have left to do now is inside copy. We need to export this file as well as a DWG. This will be file new. So we're going to overlay one file over the other, and I'll show you very quickly how this will start working. So file, export, and here you want these labels because you need to copy that text later on when we do our annotation. So we're going to go to file, export, and we're going to export as DWG. Exact same settings. Should have remembered them. Yeah, press OK. Next, and we're going to export this as site new. Topo new. N. Shift N. N. Okay. All right, so I've brought that in. Great. Now, we're going to go back to site working. I'm going to go to VG. Switch off topography. For now. We've got this AutoCAD file in. So all I need to do now is bring in that other AutoCAD file. Now this AutoCAD file, if we go to VG, we go to Imported Categories. So what we tend to do is this AutoCAD file called, so one will sit above the other. Okay, so here we've got topo existing. Here, all of this, I'm going to override this to be hidden. So all of the line patterns will be hidden. So here we're just going to say, dashed, press OK, and this will be dashed as well. Dashed. Okay, dashed 2, press OK, press apply, press OK. Now you can see they sit nicely in the background. Now and you can see I can get rid of this IC, get rid of this, I don't need that anymore, delete everything, reset, site working. So here we've got some dashed line work, and then I can simply go and say insert link CAD new here by shared coordinates, current view only, press OK. So what we're going to have now, where the contours are changing, you can see they're working very well now. And where they've changed, where they're diverted, you'll notice we have a dashed line now. So this is really starting to work really well now. So we just simply have to apply these same settings to our site. We just need to copy this information across when we're ready. So let's just go to site working. Let's grab, this is topo new. So you're going to say copy, go back to your site, paste, align to, okay. Now, I'm going to go to VG and here, VG, importer categories, object styles. So I'm going to make this more of a permanent override. So these, I'm going to, you can delete these layers. You can delete these layers and labels if you want to as well. It deletes the linked information, which is quite neat, and it'll just leave the information that you desire. So I want those two, but just remember this must be dashed. Dash 2, and you can simply Control C, Control V, press apply. Now you can see it's working nicely. This one we can just simply grab those, and those, and I want to delete those. Yes, the rest I'm going to leave as is. Press apply. Sorry, my mistake. Undo, cancel. One thing, you need to keep I need to keep the labels for the time being. I can switch them on and off in here, but for now, let me just quickly, this one I can. So let's delete that. Yes, so these ones I'm going to delete. So from there to there, delete. Yes, apply. Okay, we'll apply to there in a second, and we just need to change this to Control V, dashed, Control V, dashed. Press apply. Okay, now we're in business. Press OK, press OK. So now you can see in our site plan, I've got those labels. I'll need them later just to put the labels back on. But you can see most of my site work and line work is done neatly, and you can see the contours correctly. In addition to this line work that we've achieved now, we need to also include some services as well. So there's some service information that we need to bring back. And here I'm just using the linked Revit model. And I can start tracing some of these elements as well, so showing the lines above. So if I go to architecture, so this is a covered parking area. So if I just switch this back on, reset temporary height, reset this back on. In this instance, we need to switch this off because generally we don't show this roof level above. I'll show the outline of this level above, and I need to just indicate where this gate will go. So if you don't have a 3D gate object, you can simply draft that in on the site plan as well, either using model lines or detail lines. I would recommend doing that purely as 2D line work like I'll do the services now. Okay, so let's just go back to our site. In this view, it doesn't really matter because I'm using, but in this side view, what I want to do, and that's why I want to do it only in the side view, is if you've got a model element, you can simply tab the model element and you can actually hide it, hide in view. But I need to trace these openings first. So I need to go to annotate, detail line, and there's a special line that we use overhead, meaning it's line work, hidden line work above. So let's just use this tool, use a pick line tool. And if you just tab, it will automatically keep tabbing, select the one. Okay, that's done. Tab here, use the pick line tool again, tab here. You should find all of these openings. Sometimes it doesn't, so you just have to manually go and click. Okay, likewise here. Okay, so once you've done those overhead lines, you can tab until you select the whole slab itself. So just tab, tab, tab. There we go. I can simply hide element. So it'll hide it in the view. Now you can see my overhead lines are working well. Okay, so that's all I need to show, and you can just simply leave a note next to it. The last thing we need to do is establish our services. Okay, so now that I've established the line work overhead, I've got my roof line, and I've got a overhang here. So that overhang, I can also do the same thing, and that will also be an overhead line. So let's just grab this, create similar overhead line. So from there to there to there, and then one last bit of line work, tab. Here we might just have to use that other function where you simply, so that I'm just going to say hide as well, hide and view element. Okay, so here we can see this dashed line work. So that's just purely, that's indicating it's on a line here. You're never going to see the dashed line there, so you can leave that off. So this is a dashed line, it's an above line. Okay, so it's just indicating something above the building. All right, so that's what we're going to use that for. That'll come back to there. Okay, good. All right. Now that we've got the principles established, now we can simply go back to detail line work again. This time we're going to use the services. So here it's going to be drainage here. And my guess is that the sewer is going to run along this line over here. Okay. Okay, I've got a new template file because we'll need to bring in some information here. So we might have to start introducing some new lines for now. But for now, let me just explain how this works. So if I want to bring in some more information, the first thing we need to do, I am going to cover this a bit later on as well. I'm going to get rid of this legend, delete this legend. I'm going to go and open that new template file that I've given you. It will have all the latest template information that we need. So I'm going to go to, okay, Form C, Revit templates, and it'll be the latest version. My apologies, Form C templates, the latest version. If I open this template, all that I need to do is go to my schedule of rights, my services legend. I'm going to copy and paste, because what's neat is all this line work is pre-set up. You can see existing drainage, existing manhole, municipal sewer, drainage fittings. See here we can go and use these exact, and it'll bring all this information I need. So copy and paste this, just make sure the scale 1:1, Control C, go into the site working, start a new template, so start a new legend in this view. So legends, new legend, 1:1, and you can just call this, leave it as is for now, and you can simply paste. What this will do, it'll bring in all the line work that I need. Okay, so let's just go back to my site now. So now that should be existing, or so that's drainage fit, because this is an existing sewer. Okay, right click, create similar. This will also come, sorry, just tab, yeah, create similar. Now we're going to have, it's going to come into our site, and there's going to be a manhole here. But early on we loaded in this family, so in annotation, if we go to component, we should have a manhole. So MH, manhole, where is it? There we go. So I can simply put this over here. Let's move this to the center. So move to there, and I can just simply trim, use the trim, I can just trim this back to where it intersects to there. Okay, so that's our existing manhole. Now we need some other drainage, so our new drainage will go along here. So component, okay, detail line, here we're going to say drainage. So here, this will come back to this line over here. Now we're going to have a series of inspection eyes and those type of components. So we're going to go component again. Remember, this is purely 2D drafting now. We're going to go and find our inspection eye list. Here we go, writing eye, inspection eye, and right at the end we simply put a point. So that works well. Now for each building there'll be a set. So my guess is there'll be drainage coming out of here, connecting, and there these buildings might share drainage, these two might share the same source. So create similar. So here I'm just going to say the drainage is going to come in from this point here. Remember, that's underneath the building. You can show it going from where it terminates, but for now this will suffice, okay, because it's outside of a building. That's where it's going to join. Now, typically these join at they have a special connection that comes in at an angle at 45 degrees. So you can just simply create similar, create similar. And typically what we do is I use a circle, and I usually make this a meter, there and thereabouts. And then create similar. So that'll branch off from there to there. That will branch off from there to there. Okay, get rid of the circle. And then all we have to do is trim, trim, and then copy the symbol, copy. So where these intersects happen, so that will be a rodding eye, inspection eye, inspection eye, and you might need another rodding eye somewhere in the middle here, worst case. Okay, but we've got inspection eyes, we've got a rodding eye, and you can see that the symbol will start reading. Okay, so there we've got our drainage. The last two services that we need is electrical and that. So again, just remember you can rotate this to true north, project north as well, project north. Here we're going to go and say detail line. Okay, detail line. Here we're going to say electrical. Red dashed is electrical, so it should just be renamed. So here we're going to have our electrical point. Simply just create a circle again where it comes into the building. Move this to the one side, move this to the center, and then our last one, create similar, is going to be water main, and the water main will come in. So obviously where the basement starts, these things will come in. Okay, create similar, circle, circle, and then usually I just make this 50 or make it 100 in this instance. Okay, 100 here. Okay, that's good. You can also override the line, so you can override by element, and you can change it. In this instance, in this view, you just want this to be a solid line. Here we go. Likewise here, 100. Override element, just in this view, 100. Okay, 100. Okay, and this is only for my site plan, but you can make these a group like we did with the trees. So by making this group as the trees, that will also help. But by and large, that's how I would add my services. Okay.